It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Currier Museum of Art for tonight's in-depth conversation, A Softer Side, Reconsidering Black Masculinity, facilitated by our valued partners at the Black Heritage Trail of New Hampshire. At the Currier, we believe that dialogue is essential for fostering positive change, and so we're honored to host this important conversation with such a remarkable group of thought leaders. As an institution, our goal is to create a welcoming space for all, reflecting diverse narratives within our galleries, collections, exhibitions, and programs. We hope you have the chance to visit the galleries and reflect on the stories and identities showcased in our exhibition, I Live a Journey of 1,000 Years by French artist Raphael Barentini. Raphael's installation delves into the narratives of those whose lives have been shaped by displacement and whose identities were forged through encounters with other cultures via the processes of creolization. He has recontextualized these narratives to create a visually stunning, immersive space that is beautifully designed and deeply inspiring. It is fitting that this exhibition is on view during this Juneteenth celebration and program. If you were not able to see the show, we invite you to return. The exhibition is on view through June 23rd. Thank you for being here. I look forward to a thoughtful and inspiring discussion. And now I'm delighted to welcome Sherry Robinson, the board president of the Black Heritage Trail, to start the evening's program.
Hey y'all.
Hey.
I don't know about you, I am so excited. I am so excited. I think we're in for a retreat. I want to invite you all to be present and in the moment, to engage with your heart, your soul, and your spirit, to be open-minded, right? My sister, one of my besties here, we were just saying, we as women of color, we don't get to see this. So this is filling my soul right now. So thank you all for being a part of this. Okay, I have the job. I have the job of officially welcoming you. So, good afternoon. Welcome to the Juneteenth celebration of the Black Heritage Trail in New Hampshire. First, I would like to thank our Juneteenth sponsors, Bancroft, Delta Dental, Eastern Bank, Enterprise Bank, Exeter Hospital, and the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. Secondly, I hope you will join us next week on June 19th, the actual day of recognition. Next Wednesday in Portsmouth for our spiritual and soulful portion of our Juneteenth program to joyfully celebrate and pay homage to our ancestors. Society has long held a warped definition of Black masculinity that forces Black men into a never-ending cycle of excessive toughness and limited vulnerability. So we're going to debunk some of those myths and misconceptions tonight. These perceptions significantly impact Black men's relationships with their children, with their partners, and society as a whole. We have chosen this topic because we rarely reflect upon Black masculinity and public images as the aggressor. We are here to reconsider Black masculinity and look at the softer side, the vulnerable side, the authentic side, and what that means and how that changes perception. This conversation is a little bit different from our usual discussions, and it is very much about listening, engaging, and active listening. So we ask you, we invite you, we encourage you, we challenge you to be active listeners with an open mind, because it is so important for us to hear what our men and what our Black men are saying. We ask for your thoughts as you came into the room today, and we will ask you to reflect at the end as well. So now I have the honor to introduce and turn the program over to our very capable, amazing moderator, Anthony Ford, that can do all things. Anthony has worked, no, he's not getting it. Anthony has worked in support of transformative systems. Okay. No further ado, I turn the program over to my brother.
How y'all doing today? Y'all all right? All right, all right, all right. So, my name is Anthony Ford, and I have the honor of moderating this discussion. Now, I typically will write things down and say, but today I'm going to stick right, top of the dome for the future in honor of Christopher Michael. But I really want to do it, Stephen, brother. But what we're hoping is what you just heard, Sister Sherry, was so key to really kind of cue in on is we spent a lot of time, we spent 2 conference calls and a lot of individual calls because we wanted to get to know each other first before we can engage in this conversation. It's authentic dialogue, right? That will allow us to have a kind of conversation that we typically do not have, right? Whether it's in our own homes or ever outside the home, because you know what? You don't air your what? Your remote, right? We all heard that growing. But these are some of the tropes and the myths and the things that really shaped this thing called masculinity. So, we're going to kind of engage in the conversation here. We did take a time, and I think it was interesting, and I want to share this with you because when you think about the folks that we have today in terms of just the locations, we've got New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Mark, Texas, New York, Oklahoma, Rhode Island, Florida, and Ohio. All represented on one stage. Now, just for context, I think it's important. Remember, we have 1.4 million people in this state. 60% of the people who live in the state were not born here in New Hampshire. Right? They chose to live here, work here, play here, and pray here. Right? And we're here. Except for our brother Chris Reminder. And of course, Jason Cruz. From in Massachusetts, where they reside right now. So I just think we have a wonderful, amazing group here of men who have come here to engage in a sincere conversation, similar to what we might engage in a barbershop. Right? We can sit here and we'll have a conversation, and you get an opportunity to look in. Now, I did ask my brothers up here, is that if there's a question you might have, right, you want to make it open for you all to ask them. Right? But at the same time, I don't expect anyone on this panel to answer a question they don't feel comfortable answering. Right? So I just want to put that out. All right. So I'm going to start, if I may, with an operative kind of definition, and I'm going to go back to this definition. So the operating definition of masculinity. Masculinity is a social construct that refers to the qualities, behaviors, and attributes that are considered characteristic of men or appropriate for boys and men in a given society. It can also be defined as a form of gender and identity or a form of power. Masculinity is constructed and defined socially, historically, and politically, rather than being biologically driven. So that's what we're going to start to unpack it. But the first question we have is, first of all, who defines, and we'll talk about this, what's appropriate, right? Who defines what's appropriate? But anyway, so one of the questions, what I'd like to do first, if I may, and Christopher Michael, I'm going to ask you, bro. When Christopher Michael and I had an opportunity to talk amongst the group, you said something to me that I really appreciate. You said, I do what I do so I can feed my poetry in that. Right? And just in case you want to know, we'll be performing tonight at the Start Currier, I believe at 8:30. Right? So, slam or die. Right? If you never come, if you don't ever come down to Start Currier on a Thursday to hear that, you should do that. There'll be a performance tonight if you want to follow. Just want to give you a shout out for us. But we got a poem. Hoping that you'd be willing to recite. They got to start things going. Do you mind, sir?
Before I begin, there's something you must understand. I am not some angry man. Those who know me realize that I am not alpha-centric during my legacy. When I'm looking for a solution, I have to be crying for a solution. I heard the truth in this instance. Because I tried to remain eternally optimistic, but just listed. So if I try to remove the color-coded contact in my third eye, I realize that despite the notable other computer provided by King and his name be there, society would see. My grandmother never had the distinction of versus driving the rest to the station. From Columbus and Plymouth Rock to Newton drove them to their fair. So we restrict the culture and turn them to states. I recall the ability to internal combustion engine that has no phone problem. No about legislation that do with fix the problem. I understand no blood for no oil and no USS Dukes and all the ground soil. So I but the profile of the serial killer was right there in his 30s. And you won't find photographs and frames of our family no cold-blooded killers like Madison, Mussolini, Hitler, before King Gavin, Guillotine, and Donald. I sure as hell that you know it's trying to hyperate a nuclear bomb. Neither did I know our reputation proves. Well, who slaughtered all the Jews? Then vaporized those Asian lives because he was about to lose. But you ain't seen me personally. That's insane. I don't understand about citing so much. It's that generational guilt given to you by your grandfathers. You're feeling right here. And it's just sad that there's like college won't allow for a formal apology. Your ignorance is fault of your fear. Fault of your fault to make a new fool. So worried about being you never see the signs and scenes about students on school. Or some church. Or some club. You haven't seen my sister touching this. You also see me burn down in the churches. So I don't want the victim of the club to be willing. And I blew up on them rebellions. Black half the ticket came back. He was on transit. Each bunch of person you see me person first do doesn't make anything about Drew. Charles Drew, the government plasma would prevent the blood transfusion, but how many times about bled to death of your hospital step as you confused? It seems to something hospitality failed. Something about the collection of the blood on a large scale. What about Daniel Hale? Daniel Hale, what is it? The brother's patient didn't need no courtesy. Courtesy except for open heart surgery. When he was tied and tested and treated to kidney, I was neglected. My area didn't lose not one day. I played they protected. And what did I get? My baby brother's beautiful brown body better than bullets to be ready to be good. And I could take no care. They worked me. I'm like, damn it, the US is over top of top. What about every flower? If I still bring up the man, what you gonna do to me? But terror. No, you don't realize that I'm not having a century go on this. But I'm looking for a solution. I'm looking for a revolution. You pledge your worst you see. You pledge something worse to you. Does this make sense to you?
He's going right now, right? Mic drop. Okay. All right. So, that consider that concept for today's conversation, right? Because it's nuanced, it's complex, and frankly, it's partly informed by Islam. Right. So we're going to start with a question that I'm going to pose to everybody, and I'm going to start with my dear friend and mentor, Dwight Davis. Dwight, what does it mean to be a man to you?
Thank you. For me, it is the reflection of my father, Anthony Davis, who was born a country boy in Centerville, Texas, during the time that was post World War One. Centerville, Texas, like most of Texas, like most of the South, is very racist. But this is the man who found his way to Houston for opportunities that a company called Hughes Tool. Matter of fact, the family was pretty much run out of Centerville because my grandfather insisted that he be allowed to vote. And he brought himself and the 7 boys to vote one time. and then armed with the rifles and pistols, most of which would work. And the sheriff and so forth, they told me he couldn't vote. He said, "The hell I can. If anybody touches me, my boys, I told them open up fire." And he voted that time. By the next vote, he gave me a million times. And, my father proceeded and got a job, brought his family there. And I'll be short with the rest of it. My father, all my life in school, he worked 2 and 3 jobs to take care of his family, his 5 kids. 2 and 3 jobs. He started laying railroad tires for Southern Pacific Railroad. When he retired 50 years later, he was an account executive for the same company. He never saw him grow. He loved his wife, loved his children just as much. And, that's masculinity to me. A provider, a protector, a man who put in for his family.
Find that. What does being a man mean to you?
Just to follow up what the wife said, being protected. But I think from my standpoint, being able to love unconditionally. And I think that's the softer side of masculinity, being able to see that, to love the differences in people and the way they love, the way they talk, the way they dress, just and anything that's just different for yourself. Just seeing that diversity keeps me going. So when somebody asks me about masculinity, I'm gonna purpose. Look at that. You have something that colors soft. You know what? It may be some soft for you, but I'm a man because I see the amazing. I see the love and difference in that.
Kevin, same question. What does being a man mean to you?
Well, man, I think about this question a lot. Like, to be completely honest, right, I was thinking, what am I going to say to these people who are listening to be like, Kevin's not brought some big sport. And I'm like, maybe. I'm trying to see the people on Zoom. What's up? Y'all look beautiful. I can't see you, but I'm not seeing your slap and it's the mic is going in and out, but y'all can hear me. I tend to be loud. Actually, I don't know. I think that's my honest answer. That I don't know what it is to be a man. I think the tension that I'm often caught between, thank you, is there's a lot of ideas in the world about who men are supposed to be. And for some reason, right, men of all experiences, but in particular Black men who are riddled with histories of loss, history of lack of power, lack of agency, right? There's a lot of things that Black men have lost historically that we've been trying to recover by means of harming other people, by engaging in dynamics and behaviors that don't benefit us. And so when I fix the question of what does it mean to be this thing that I identify as, so much of my life has been, this is the path for what it means to be a man. And that's what it means to follow, right? Sacrifice, provide for your family, protect. But then when I think about it, I'm like, okay, so once I get that, I will have a life, right? And I'm going to be feeling like 100% macho man, you suck. And I'm 31 and I still I'm different. So something's got to give. And so I think what I want it to mean is that men are able to show up and engage in the ways that they can align with without so much adhering to this is what you're supposed to be. Because in my experience and engaging other men and doing men's and masculinity work, I find that men are longing for things like community, connection, unconditional love, being able to cry in front of people without the fear of judgment. We all want that as human beings, right? We're social beings for relational capacity. But for whatever reason, men are told, you don't get to do that. Because you're supposed to keep your head down. And even if they're traumatized, you can cry about it in the shower. Don't talk about it to nobody. Don't go see them. You're vulnerable to illness, you just pray away. You'll be alright. And that's like low-key dangerous, right? It's like a violent idea that men should do things that take them further and further away from humanity. So I would love for masculinity to mean that we can engage in the kind of behaviors that make us feel more in touch with who we want to be, versus operating in ways that other people have told us historically and in the present. This is what you are supposed to be as a man, and you better adapt to it. Not like that's it. You're going to be less than a person, and that's for me. That's the thing. So I will end it there.
Thank you. Chris.
I see your purple suit and I'm ready to pink socks. So I can have an event in my life to teach me what it was to be a man. So in my 20s, I read the book, and this is the definition. This is the description that I provide. That there's 5 statements. It starts with a human being born with Gary producing gonads to urethra that extend outside their body is male. A boy is a male child who's playing and trying to figure out life. So if you call yourself a player, you are still a boy. A man is able to protect, take care of himself and plan his own future. A husband is a man who can take care of and protect his teammate, his partner, his wife. And a father is a man who can take care, protect, and plan the future of other human beings.
All right. Start brewery 8:30. Hey, brother Andy. You're good.
So those are great responses. All of that. Saying, but I had to look at my phone. Who was in the house? He was a provider, a protector, nurturing. I never saw it in their hand. When they did it in the month, he would kick us out of this door there on TV. And then later he would come out and what happened on that. And so I learned from him how to diffuse a lot of things. But at this time, it's not. In all the book that I was in early 90s, we had the highest education. So I got to see masculinity as those toxic love and also incarceration. But I would always be able to recalibrate back to what I always even when he struggled. Even when he struggled with heroin, he was still that. And when he eventually died from pancreatic cancer at 90 pounds, he was still that guy. And he is still a lot of his sons and his daughters. And that's why I'm asking that nurturing and protecting. And just being able to have that balance. I think that balance is a lot.
Mark.
When I think about masculinity, I think about my father. And my father's name is Mark David Clare, so it's been weird when he passed away. So when I was really excited to see my son. When I think about masculinity, my dad. And my dad struggled his whole life. But no matter what, he was always happy, joyful. He always made people feel good about themselves. And he was always that thought, that staying force, but he never had people to give back to him and feed him in his life, in his soul. So he used to come to drug addiction when he struggled in his life. But he's what I think about as being masculine, because no matter what, he tried to be that God for our family. He tried to provide, he tried to be the most stability, but he couldn't. He struggled with all times. So if I were to add to that on that community, like he be part of something bigger than himself, to be part of a connection to other men that could give up the heaven. Right. It's missing piece of it.
You know, one of the things that I didn't do today that I should have done is give the opportunity for everybody to introduce themselves. Right? You know, like I said, I'm not a professional at this, right? Nor do I claim to be one. I apologize. Jason Cruz.
Let's start with Jason. Jason Cruz, I'm a therapist. Union. Born in Puerto Rico and was raised in Jacksonville, Florida. You know, I'm a Costa Rican. Important because to be that we had 2 people in my family, my mom and dad, that created me.
And all of these represented in everything that I try to do, because my masculinity, as much as the name is given to men, my mom has energy that's as powerful as a stereotypical male masculine person. And I would not believe if those two people that are together, how me to find what a man is supposed to be. My father and mother took us places we weren't supposed to be because they knew to be better where they need to be. So in doing that, they brought instead of me service, caring, starting the pot, stepping back to what we may need for help with. So for me, man to me is giving, sharing, creating space for people, and pulling back for us to be needs or
Well said. I appreciate that. And I'm going to make sure that as I go through these questions, I've been thinking about this in the course of our discussion. And so, Kevin, I'm going to come back to you because you're starting to touch on something that says you have feelings. But before I get to that question, I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah.
And I get my apologies.
you're good. Kevin Convenience, he, him pronouns. My day job is Assistant Director of Equity and Inclusion at the Sector Academy, which is reporting to New Hampshire. Yeah, I think that's okay.
Yeah, that's good. And again, my apologies. So, earlier we read the definition of what masculinity is, right? The operating definition. And I think in the course of the discussion that we had, we came to the determination that that operating definition was defined by cisgender white males, generally speaking. And then we started talking about feelings, right? So when we talk about what's appropriate for boys, can we talk about our feelings and why many men feel it's inappropriate or a struggle to talk about our feelings? And can you talk a little bit in your answer about your journey and how you were able to get there?
Yeah, the immediate thing that comes to mind from a personal standpoint to share with y'all, June of 2020, I took a voluntary furlough for my job, so I went to go, I was traveling to Florida, right? We didn't know much about COVID still, but I was like, I'm going to risk it all, and risk it all. Nobody got COVID, thankfully, right? I'm here we are. So I went home, and I think the pandemic forced a lot of people, not just me, in the midst of quarantine, right, to face a lot of things that you probably didn't want to, but you were forced to. And a lot of my coping mechanisms for the really deep loneliness that I developed was engaging behaviors that for sure didn't serve me. I see there's some youths in the building, so we won't talk too in detail like that. But when I was at my mom's apartment, I remember feeling like I went to college. I learned all this stuff about social justice, right? I was like, feminism is important. We gotta do better among women. And I was on Facebook like, why do men suck? Even though I'm a man, right? And I kind of put on this persona that I was like this skilled dude who was gonna get other men together, but I was actually engaging in a lot of the same damaging behaviors that people were calling men out for all the time. Black men, other men of color, etc. And I realized that no amount of social justice knowledge and the things that I read in books in college could amount to actually living out the values that I was performing to have, right? So I was like, community is important. Men gotta be friends with each other. But then I had a moment in my mom's apartment where I was like, I don't really have friends that are like other dudes, let alone other heterosexual black men. Like that wasn't the thing. And so that anxiety kind of propelled me to create what has now been 3 years in the making, something called the Black Men's Reflection Group, where Black men, heterosexual, queer, trans, we literally get together over Zoom to intentionally be in our feelings. And the reason why I bring that up is because I'll never forget, it was a moment, right? It kind of functions as a traditional book club. You pick a book, hopefully by a black man, a black person, and we have conversations. That is that part of graduate school. But what I realized is that they were men in 30s, 40s, and close to their 50s in our group who were using the book as a catalyst to talk about their feelings, right? So, we're talking about something woke, and we thought was interesting, and now all of a sudden somebody's like, yeah, this part of the story kind of reminded me of, Sarah in the fifth grade when she broke up with me, and that was the start of my hate all women. You live in a that? But also the fact that we don't know each other, and there was a willingness to bring that to the table. And so for me, I think that was the catalyst for, oh, there's something really at stake here to talk about like my feelings, right? So like it's not enough for me to just say intellectually masculinity this and use multi-syllable words to make it look like I'm saying something smart, but to actually roll them up like, sometimes I be hella sad and I haven't cried in years because I'm even embarrassed to cry alone in my house, which is like the conditioning for that is wild. Like think about that. There are some men who refuse to cry even by themselves. And so for me, right, I'm grappling with a lot of things throughout my life, specifically around shame, and trying to figure out like how do I not beat myself up so much over the harm that it caused? Because at one point I was like, I hurt all these women that I thought I was to be friends with, but really I was leveraging all this social justice knowledge to like hook up with people and to look more attractive. But I was just a benevolent jerk, right? And that too is dangerous. So I think for me, men being able to talk about their feelings, especially Black men, it's super important because the world always communicates to us that we're nothing and that we're the other. And so when we start to get angry and we start to go around and do things to people because really we have a lot of unprocessed feelings, that's super dangerous, not just for your own well-being, but for the well-being of other people that you supposedly say you care about. And so I'm really invested in men asking themselves the question like, what does it mean to be a man? Because what we're doing right now, what we're surviving, we're not thriving. Like this is literally not working to the extent that we're having a conversation about why we're not having these conversations enough. You know what I mean? So that's what I would say. Hopefully that it like gives a more honest reflection of what I'm feeling and not this like cerebral social justice book answer. Like I think that's what I'm really grappling through even in this moment. Like y'all see me, I'm confident, I'm talking to you, but literally every day I'm asking myself, how do I communicate to people what I'm actually feeling versus giving people the image of what I think they want to see me as. Yeah.
Mm. That was deep. Well, and one of the things I appreciate when you talk about many of the decisions, so that your actions are like were informed by trauma. And Anthony, I want to go back to you if I can for a moment, because there's something you said through the course of our conversation, and you and I have the opportunity of knowing each other. And I love this man. I'm gonna let you know up front, I love this man. I respect him deeply. I wish I was as good as a man as he is. Now, you talked about trauma, and sometimes trauma shows up in negative ways. You talked about toxic masculinity. But your buttress, and I'm going to go back to something you said about your parents, because every one of us so far, it sounds like our definition, our operating definition of masculinity was in part defined by our nuclear family, right? If not solely driven by our nuclear families, which really does push back against the common narrative that we don't have nuclear families, right? So you said something on the phone. You talked about your father as not just a provider, a teacher, and a defender, particularly in a space where you grew up when all you saw was more toxic, but your home was your safe haven. Talk a little bit more about your father. I want to hear him.
He said says so he was a combination of being a very young Fred Sanford, son. And then there was this poem that was Dr. Heath with us. So when I was at my worst, and he was looking out better. So there will be times that my brother and I would come to a spiders. And I was in a space not to show it. And my dad was in fire. He looked at it, and I could see the population in the Senate. Because the next question is, okay, so we want to finish your substance. It's not fine. That was him. He didn't show back and forth. Watching other men beat women in my neighborhood or kill other men and reporting wakes and funerals every other month. And that is very admirable to try to process conscience. And my dad was there even through the struggle to help us process. So whereas some of my friends were much, much deeper into the lifestyle of others, I met William, had black books.
Yeah.
He had to say, listen, don't share this, right? And he would use the bathroom to tear the bathroom up, and they got behind him. That's that. Yeah, that's that. That's the big guy. You gotta follow his lead. So, and then masculinity, see my incarceration at its highest level is there.
Right.
So, because I always say that person is kind of like the microcosm of society's saying that whatever you are, you will be able to get out. So you have to make those adjustments and things like that. And I'm glad that even when my dad died, still belonging, still masculinity. Hey, listen, you don't have to be as tough as these guys. So that balance was huge for me, and it was my saving grace. It's kind of like my duty to pass that on to others. So,
That's right. And thank you. Mark, actually, I kind of do want to come back to you for a little bit. My experience in life. I grew up with my grandparents. My parents divorced when I was 4. For those of you who don't know, I was a product of mixed marriage. My father's divorced. My parents divorced when I was 4. Couldn't really withstand the pressures. And, my mother, who was a white lady, moved in with my daddy's parents. And sometimes your principal provider is not necessarily your immediate family, right? Or aren't your dad, right? For a lot of us, it's, it could be our grandmoms, our moms, our auntie. You know what I'm saying? But Mark, something you talked about, and by the way, I got to meet your children, and they're beautiful, and you're a beautiful wife. Yay! This is what it's about, right? It's a word family. You talked about the role that sports have played in your life. By the way, and you coach every one of these people sitting down in front of you, right? And you talked to me about the roles that coaches play in helping you define your operated definition of masculinity. So can you talk a little bit about that?
yeah, thank you for the question.
Yes.
I think first, one thing I thought was I'm also from my dad's black and my mom's white. So I never really fit in anywhere in my head. I was like black enough to be black kids. I was remember the white kids. Honest. And my dad, one day in high school, he said, if you have an ounce of black in you, black. And I don't know if I was projecting anything because I never talked about it. But that kind of set me down. And I was okay with who I am. And I love sports. I played basketball, baseball, football, gymnastics, wrestling, track. And the honest answer is I wasn't very good at anything. My coaches that were there, my wrestling coach, he was an Olympic alternate for the Barcelona games. He was awesome. I had a gymnastics coach for the D1 gymnast, but the minor getting minutes for everyone. And the one requirement was that when the man was in track or on that, was stayed 100%. It wasn't how well you performed. And for me, that was big. If I just gave my all, I would be excellent. And so that was the kind of stuff we did. And wrestling is super simple. Just 3 people. And you're giving it all, that person giving it all. No matter what, you're getting it. Sometimes I'm a better person, sometimes I'm better me. But no matter what, just giving my all was all my coach asked. And these people, these men that were in my life, met us where we were. No matter how good we were, how bad we were, they were there for us. And that was best. And that's actually part of the reason I can coach youth is because it gives me an avenue to build up kids. My son and daughter but it gives me a connection to build them up and show them kind of a stable force in their life.
Right. Thank you. Appreciate that, bro. A lot. I'm curious, obviously, Dwight, sports played a huge role in your life, too. Obviously, it was your ticket. Talk a little bit about it, you mind?
Thank you. Yes, sport was a ticket for me. And I say it with all sincerity. Academics was also an avenue for me. You know, and I had some standards that I mentioned before Rachel Davis that I wanted to to make him proud. But there was a part of Lillian Davis, and I look at my mom and dad like an anchor in the rope with a chain that's attached to the anchor. My mom was that chain. Of course, I told you my father worked 2 and 3 jobs all the time. He couldn't be home all the time. This man worked so much, he took his clothes with him on Saturday night. His clothes for church with him on Saturday nights, and he left his job and he found a way to church to meet the family. But let's not be mistaken about this. In developing a strong masculine man, there's often a woman somewhere in the picture. Amen.
Can we get
There's
it?
also a
Amen.
woman somewhere in the picture. Doing it right. And my mother was there, and she was committed to it. I'm not going to get to the sports part.
Take your time. That's all. I just want to get back.
Well, you know, wonderful, great gentlemen up here. I want them to speak. You too. I can remember my mother beating with a belt because she loved me, because I had done something that she knew would get me killed in the race itself. And I can't imagine, you talking about friends, so I can't imagine what it was like for her on the occasions, the several occasions she had to administer whipping to me. She would say, I'll kill you before I let them kill you. And she meant that literally because in the 50s in Houston, Texas, Black kids came up missing. They came up missing. And she was so concerned about the least bit of antisocial behavior in her children. And I know I must remember to have to do that. White Davis, business owner now, former professional basketball player. For me, you know, the neighborhood I grew up in is really rough. You know, that whole 50s thing, everybody was tough. You know, everybody 60, everybody was tough, everybody was part of a little gang in Houston, Texas. And my older brother, man, he was just kind of out there doing his own thing. So I had an older brother to protect me like that. And my father, when he was working, he was protecting whatever he could. He wasn't there, so to protect me in that sort of way. So I grew up with a lot of fear. I'm going to confess to you, I was a big winner until I was in the 5th or 6th grade. And that was hard for me to deal with myself.
That's right.
And about the same time, I got involved in basketball. I didn't want anyone of my teammates to know I was a bear, you know, because I wanted, that was my way of trying to be tough. But the basketball thing did come along, and I got a chance to play in the NBA. It was a success for me, and but I wanted to let other people talk out there. So a couple of the shackles around the whole man. When the basketball thing was good, it allowed me to go places and meet people that a lot of those don't get the chance to meet. But it also gave me a chance. It gave me a chance to peek inside the room where a lot of people of color don't get a chance to look. And I saw some of the inconsistencies that you find in society, you know. But thank you.
Appreciate it. Earlier, I referenced and read the definition of masculinity and how the social expectations, of being a man have historically been defined by white men, but particularly cisgender white men. Lionel, as a successful entrepreneur and openly gay man living in the Granite State, how do you define masculinity, and what's your experience been like?
You're wrong.
Yes, and
Yes.
being vulnerable is intimidating, but I must say, see what I'm saying to these guys, I can feel the strength of feelings. Time to be myself.
Please.
Um, there is a gay and I've never had a barbershop talk because I never felt comfortable enough to have that talk. Never felt safe enough to have that talk. This is probably the first time I've been with other black men, and been openly gay. Being able to express who I love. The masculinity. Another part of it. I was an athlete just like you, right? Um, when you're on the court and you cross somebody, they don't, they're not asking if you're gay. But then when their conversation happens afterwards, oh, you're gay. You cross people? Yep, I did. So I kind of believe that, yeah, I'm not just a gay black man. I'm a man first. Let's have that conversation. Let's be on that level where we can actually have a human to human contact. Then, if you are brave enough to embrace me as a gay man, then we can build a relationship or friendship. It just goes back to the masculinity part of me believing that if you are so-called man enough to embrace other people's differences, that expresses to me that you are masculine. But I can go on and on about, being gay, being perceived. Here in New Hampton, I will say, this guy right here, he's a mentor to a lot of people,
Yes, he is.
but his ability to just say, I love you, I don't know how many times he said it to me. His ability to be able to say that in front of people, it has such a huge impact on me. I'm not going to cry. But that's coming from the heart. I love you. I'm so glad that you, Gail, and you walked into my life today. Yeah, it's being vulnerable, which thank you all for allowing me to be vulnerable on stage in jail.
All right, well, you said the B word, right? Vulnerability, right? Jason, I'm going to come over to you, bro, if I can, right quick, right? Engage in this conversation. We've talked about it. I'm just going to read what I wrote here. Often we men are encouraged to be strong, right? And not show our emotions. Can you talk about a little bit about how vulnerability is actually our superpower, right? As opposed to being something that demonstrates weakness or back in the day, my granddad used to call it, don't be a panty waist, right? Right.
Um, I think first, feeling what you're feeling about this energy right here is real, which I could maybe argue. I can tell you this first. I have the present privilege of working with young people in Massachusetts, and most of them I work with young men, middle school to high school, and the constant conversation and as a person who makes art, you think about sculpting, stone, whatever, you have to chip away, chip away, chip away, chip away. Already in middle school, not being able to cry, not being able to ask a question, not being able to get space for people to the space they need. And then have to treat the next layer now the kid that's been taught how to be a man by a man still a boy, if not. And I think I'm glad we're talking as grown people here, but I can tell you, we don't start earlier.
Come on.
With our
Come on.
boys. And the young women, however they define, say to support each other in a world that's trying to squat. We're gonna have a stadium full of men that aren't speaking. And when you talk about mobility, not teaching boys or young people who identify as males how to ask for help and not to be shamed about the response, about being scared or doubtful or shy or want to be an artist versus a basketball player. Like I personally played sports because I'm a big dude. I need something to do. But I was more happy talking about the uniform football players more than I don't know about it. So to be honest with you, but I did not go down and go knock somebody out. But I pick him up. So I think it's weird guy. So you I think that's okay. And I think we see about vulnerability. I think young women also struggle with that because it's used against them. So the B word, vulnerability, needs to be explored deeply versus something period. So everybody has to break and honor the things that seem different or challenging to others, because that is the beauty that we're missing out on. When it comes to young men, I've also been working with young people in lockup. I'm like, hey, you're only graduating to midway here. We're not getting out. So the only thing I can do sometimes is kind of talk about stories when they were trying to be little kids. They're trying to forget the story of the crime at home. So for me, back to my dad, I want to build my mother. My mother and father would appropriately speak in this not understand each other openly, respectfully, so they can have examples of how to address something that's not working.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, with the young men I work with, you cannot write what's happening. Let's talk about the feeling. How did you get there? Do you feel it getting out? What are the other options you have to act out or not? Can you make some art? Can you talk about it? Can you bring a song? So for me, with vulnerability, it's a key to unlock a lot of things that are locked within us that keep us down and not support us. And I think as men on the stage, we're going to constantly reveal to ourselves feelings and emotions as we get older that we're like, damn, I'm not even sweat back no more because this is me now. And people are going to get here now. So
that's perfect. Christian Michael, I feel like the Lord put the spotlight on you, right? Yeah, and I do want to share something with you, and I'm gonna thank you publicly. This gentleman signed up. He joined the service when he was 16. Okay, am I right? I got the age right? That's when I signed up. When he signed, he was 16, right? And he's given his life to this country, right? In ways that other, you know what I'm saying? I want to recognize that because I think that's important, right? So, I guess the service is the place where you can be your most vulnerable, right? So, what does vulnerability mean to you, sir?
So speaking on buildings from vulnerability, we can't just teach young boys what it is to be a man, all the aspects of not just the core of everything that we need to. You got to teach the young girls too, because it's my experience and the experience of so many men that I run with. We do not show you vulnerability. We do not show you tears out feelings. Because too often the people we love the most, the people we're trying to protect, weaponize it and use it against us. I cannot tell you how many times that I act right and I've gotten silenced, or how many times I express vulnerability and the response is from women, you're being a bitch. Stop being a bitch. So, if I'm with Wolf, I am not going to give you silver bullets. I'm going to keep it to myself. So I'm going to keep my tears and my feelings to myself until I find that one person or that small handful of people that over an extended period of time have proven that they can handle my vulnerability. And in my 50 years of life, there's been few and far between.
Go ahead.
I just want to respond to that. I think that maybe you should continue to cry, so that way you can end hurt.
Hey. That's Texas right there, right?
To be clear, I'm not afraid to cry. I lost track of the number of movies since 8 years old, watching The Invitation of Life. In the other movie, when somebody dies, somebody tries to save somebody's life, and I'm losing it. So, and especially after being in the military, I can't hear taps or see a military funeral or see soldiers walking down the street and doing drilling ceremonies where tears aren't going to fall from my face. I'm not afraid to cry, but I feel an exceptionally cautious of the vulnerabilities that I share. I'll be on stage during poetry, and I can tell you my whole life story. But about the long behind closed doors, you got to be pretty special to get any of that. To include there is an absolute softness to masculinity because part of it, when you're protecting somebody, you are actively loving them. You are sacrificing your time, your life, your finances in order to protect somebody. That takes a softness and a willing to open and expose yourself up. But it's so hard to do that when as soon as you open up that soft spot, somebody wants to open it. So it's not, we have to address masculinity, but if we only address masculinity, then we're going to have a problem with things that are lopsided. We also need to be sitting in the audience and listening to a discussion on women.
That's right. That's right. You know, can I follow up with you, Chris? Because for those of you who don't know, I'm a huge science fiction fan. Like, if y'all checking out the new Acolyte series, it's really hot.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right? Star Wars. And Christopher likes Star Trek, right? And I got to bring this up during the course of our conversation. And Christopher had mentioned it during the course of his remarks here that he didn't grow up with any significant male role models in his life, but he did mention the role that Captain Kirk played in his life. So I got to hear this.
I didn't like grow up thinking, oh, I'm going to be like her. That was not.
That what it?
It was in the last couple years. When I reflect on how I lead at work and how I lead in other businesses and poetry and with my friends, I realize I am the Captain Kirk. I am more of a loner than amongst my friends. I'm the loner. Amongst my supporters at work, I'm the boss. Do what I tell you to do. It's what can I do to provide for you so you can do your job. You make me look good, so I will do everything I can to protect you so you can do your job. And you're gonna keep making me look good. I need my sacrifice. I need my serving. And I realize that's what Captain Kirk does. But there's also some negative traits of Captain Kirk that I've also picked up. Well, if you know Captain Kirk, you know something's negative. You want to know to settle her down.
That's true. He's quite the crazy man.
So yeah, so I didn't have a male anchor to show me what that was like. So I've been married twice. My first marriage, I had no idea what I was doing. I was still bouncing between boy and father, let alone that husband. In my second marriage, we both had some trauma that hadn't been addressed, and we were two sharp daggers cutting each other. But now we're divorced, and she's my absolute best friend. But I'm still, I'm listening to
Your microphone's hanging from your shirt. Come on, put it. Make sure. There you go. Appreciate you. Star Trek, baby. You didn't know those coming, did you? All right. I do, because I was coming to you anyway. Go.
I think that I think everyone has an experience that returns to vulnerability and the courage to be vulnerable. And to me, unfortunately, getting vulnerable right now, if you're worthy and whatever. But I'm going to say, like, what I keep learning from these young people is that they want opportunities to learn, to have those experiences, to say something, to be heard a different way, to ask for permission, to grant permission, and to create that space. And I think there's no absolute answer, I don't think, to getting people to understand vulnerability. But I do know that we need to teach young people to respect space when they get older, physically, emotionally, spiritually. If they hear something they don't like, they can continue in a certain way and respond to it that's appropriate for the moment as need be. And if we don't tap into that earlier, we talked in here a little bit, like we will continue to have this unfortunate conversation about how do you better yourself if you be heard or understood. And I think I'm just troubled a little bit as a man, like trying to give space between people when it's sometimes a conversation to happen in front of their parents, because the parents are the ones who vary on their behavior, and they should very sad, it feels right, they love it, when they go home. So these are examples of people that want to try to make things similar either to themselves and others, and the conversations that have to continue.
Absolutely. One of the things that I was struck with, Chris, you had said, well, you talked about your life, and for those of you who, Chris, I don't think you talked about this, or Jake, I'm saying Chris. I'll be all right. I'll get this figured out. You talked about your parents' experience going from New York City to Puerto Rico to Florida, right? And you talked about, particularly when you moved from one home up to the northern part, I think you said Florida, remember correctly. You had mentioned that feeling like a chocolate chip and a chocolate cookie, right? But you said something to me that really, really hit. And I was thinking about the experience that we as Black men had living in the New Hampshire diaspora, okay? And the quote that you struck me with, I think it was your mom or your dad, I don't know who we attributed it to, but it said, "You belong where you stand." Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think my short version is because of ADHD, there was laziness. It is a troublemaker, and I think this is the balance of this marriage that my parents had. My father would talk love and show love and mentor people, and my mother would do the same. But when it came to education, my mother knew I learned differently. My father didn't have the chance to just learn differently because he had to be a man at 10 in New York City, in the Bronx, and like that lifestyle is no joke. So for me, when I started being pushed through academics and being told in 8th grade I'm not going to do anything for a podcast, and then when I get to college, I'm there, that's what you're supposed to do. It took me like 6 or 7 years to get to undergrad. Met a couple teacher, like, oh, you have to do this thing. I'm not inventing our therapy site, stuff, an actual thing. So as I'm leaving, I'm having a conversation with mom and my dad and my father and mother. And my mother would say to us, and I had the middle kid in the family who was as dark as I am. There was a way me and my mom connected because she also was dark like me. And she told me once, that you belong where you stand. Cut to coming to Massachusetts, free state, welcoming state, and coming from the South, we're feeling more racism in 2 months in Massachusetts than I ever did in Jacksonville, Florida, where I knew who the Canadian people were, our neighbors in the street were like whatever. I remember her saying, you belong where you stand. And that meant that I'm supposed to be athletic when I'm the only one who's there. I'm supposed to be the one who's going to get the master's degree, but I'm supposed to get out of 8th grade. That I'm supposed to be the only person of color at my organization at the time of our artworks, and the only male. I'm supposed to be there. So we're loaning you to the world because you're supposed to be there. So that lesson I give to every young person that goes through our artworks. You belong where you stand. You're not entitled to it. You're supposed to be there. And I think I operate that way because there's so many things that I can choose to get stuck on that I know I have to get moving forward because I'm supposed to be here. So whether medical support, walking on the street as a man of color, being misidentified as people want me to be black, they want me to be Samoan, they don't like me to be Puerto Rican, whatever it is, you belong to be scared. So I think that's from number it. I'm gonna pass on to Shaka because we still have people that are not welcome in their communities, they're not welcome in universities, they're not welcome in family, they're following grocery stores, and I think they need to let them on there. So I pass it on. So that's the simple version.
Yeah, I'm gonna come back to you, man, because this, this thing around masculinity and doing the work is something that you live it, right? It's who you are to an extent. So, if someone wanted to begin a journey of self-reflection, right? Where do they go? How do they begin?
I'm laughing because I'm like, I feel like I didn't know where to go, so I created it.
Talk about.
I don't want to sit here and lie about like there's an abundance of resources for men to go and get themselves together. Like I don't, if there are, I don't know. Much less for like black men, black queer men, black trans men. Like I don't know. And I think that's the honest answer. But if someone in the audience who's a man and a colored black man, in the audience, and you're like, yo, this sounds important. This feels important. There's something moving me to want to explore more of this, what this dynamic is happening on stage. How do I do it? I think an important question to ask yourself is, what is my willingness to connect with other people and also know that I can be hurt in the process? And so that's an important question, right? Because black men in particular, we're already feeling other kind of work. When you look on TV, you can see your being getting murdered by the police, by other people. You're able, suspicious, impressive. But then you're also going to be the protector, the provider, keep your head down in the midst of the hurt and pain you feel. And that's a lot to juggle. And it's even more to juggle when you think about it in the context of, damn, I'm feeling all this and I can't talk to nobody about it. And that for me isn't just like something that's bad. It's something that's dangerous. I've seen throughout my lifetime, whether it was my dad, right, how unprocessed feelings turn into engaging in really serious forms of harm that really mess a lot of people up. And I think in particular, in just thinking about myself being a man, I had performed for so much of my life who I thought people wanted to see me as, but I was so struggling and trying to figure out like how do I genuinely connect with other people, right? Because I don't get like I don't want you to talk like for good people in the audience. If you have a loved one who's a man back at home, or somebody that you're going to see after today, this week, or at some point, ask them like, how do you think about connecting with other men in your life? Like, what's that like? And some people just, like I just be talking, like I'm just chilling. You can talk about sports. You talk about whatever, all these stereotypical things that men think that they're supposed to talk about, right? When men talk to me, they see me, I wear tight shirts, got muscles. I just lift things up, put it back down.
Go on, Planet Fitness. Go on.
And the first thing you go, it's like, can you play football? And all right, you gotta watch sports. Everybody follow. Bro, the extent of my knowledge is hashtag pro sports. That's it. I don't follow it. But the thing is, like, what's interesting about that is that men are trying to find an entry point, right? It just happens to be sports right now. But sometimes you talk about LeBron, you're arguing over the stats or whatever. You say, LeBron just be pissing me off or reminds me of what I got going on back home. And you're like, oh, okay. So for me, I'm trying to figure out how do you just get men to see the thing and not cover it up under the guise of something you think other men are going to be interested in, so you say that instead. So you're really trying to find your path to be like, yo, I get sad. But you're talking about it, you go wrong. I'm like, no, let's just say it, we're sad. Right? Like, we are not okay. Statistically, you know that's true. And anecdotally, you know that's true. I know some people on the block that are not okay. But nobody says anything. It's like, well, so and so, they're just down bad. So. That's a really long-winded answer, and I'm really sorry, but I'm saying all that to say I don't actually know I'm not lying. I don't know where the hubs are for men to have these conversations because, right, thank you. Well, I guess we're here, right? We can be a hub for those who want. But even beyond this, there has to be a kind of consistency that you want to engage in. And then from boyhood to I'm 31 and I'm still struggling to figure out. I can talk to y'all when we're on stage, right? Because I love talking to people. I'll get up and speaking. But let's say after this, if one of us like, yo, okay, like, let's really go there and have a conversation. Am I really going to give this man the opportunity to perceive me? I don't know. Right? And I think a lot of people don't want to admit that. A lot of men are thinking that. I'm like, because I'm in the book club, we have to that with every Tuesday. I'm like, okay, there's something here. But I don't know what is going to be the thing to ignite for a man. Like, y'all want to talk about my favorite sin. I'm going to tell my brother that don't sin. I was trying to be it. But you might get decided. So I know for a fact in my soul, my spirit, that men want a lot of the things that I'm talking about, and I definitely do. But we're not sure how to do it. And when it does happen, there's still a fear of like, am I really gonna give myself to these random notes? Right? So you're not damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if you don't, your mental health is shambles. And then you open yourself up to the opportunity of being hurt. And for Black men in particular, who have been told that they have nothing, they are nothing, their being is less than, you're not going to want to give what you feel is a little bit you have less to potentially lose that too.
Right. Mark, I want to bring in this conversation, and time is getting a little short, but not too short. But I'm the father of 2 daughters. Mariana is 23, Daniela is 20. Some of y'all know my baby. I'm reading a lot in the literature today about this issue around masculinity and the differences in age, right? My daughter will talk about, I can't find no man today, right? And I hear it all the time. Ain't no real man out there. They're looking for real companionship. They're not looking to swipe left. They're not looking to swipe right. Mark, I'm thinking about you as a coach, right? Think about where you're at 50, right? And the young people that you coach. Do you see any differences in what our operating definition of what being a man is at 30 to 70 to some of these young people you coach who 10, 12, 15 years old? What do you see?
100%. I mean,
Talk to me.
middle school, high school, that's my favorite coach. And her older, so it's very sport. They have a weird definition of masculinity that's never been tried. It's not like,
Oh, I'm sorry. I hate you, brother. I'm sorry, baby.
I think it's taken a long time for me to understand where I am and become a little with my masculinity. And when I see kids going through that same discovery, they're at the same roadblocks I was at that age. Like, I like sports and a lot of things are stripped away when you're on a sports field. You can't have false bravado. You can't, all the things that maybe promise arrogant to your friends that seem like that faux masculinity aren't there. So me as 44, looking at the kids, what they see as masculinity is very handpicked from society. It's like we're taking this person looks and this person is from that person. It's almost like they highlight kids in their classrooms that put other people there. That any kids that show vulnerability or anything like that are mobility. And the people that are mobility are the ones that are that's what they see masculinity at 12, 13, 14 years old. So it's hard. I feel like I have to be an example of that to the kids because honestly, all my kids, I love them. I love them. I have a big amount of complex with my kids. And so when I see them going through these weird times in their lives, I'm like, it's not. It's not true. What you're seeing isn't real. It's a fairy tale. And it's not a good thing either because it has us chasing things that can hurt us in the end. You know? So I was son and my daughter, what masculinity is, I would say look beyond high school, look beyond college years, see the things that moves around us and people that we love and care about.
What's your? I'm gonna Zach, but I could be wrong. What's your concern? Zach, you already got him. I wouldn't even close. Nah, come here up here. Give this young man a mic. Come on, stand. After you, come here. All right.
Ty's ready to go.
Y'all can be good, right? Can I talk to you? All right, we're talking about young people, right? You got some old folks up here on the stage, right? Including myself. What does being a man mean to you as your young person today? You're good. You didn't need it. We have a conversation, baby. This is what we do.
I would argue part of me isn't ready to answer that yet because I'm saying I'm a man myself. You know?
That's a good answer.
But being a man is someone who can be strong for those around me, and I don't know. It's a way to make everyone around you happier and help support everyone around you. But have someone to be there for you. That's definitely part of it.
I got you.
Just being a stable pillar for people who love you and trust you.
Stable pillar like this. Stay up here. You ain't going nowhere. Hey, real quick. We're running out of time, so quick 30-second answer. We're going to have fun with this. Jason, I'm going to start with you. All of us have at some level kind of talked about the role of our mothers in our lives. Real quick. Jason, 30 seconds. The role that your mother played in helping you define your version of masculinity. Go.
But I know she made my father made me husband. Taught me how to cook, teach me how to clean, but she also taught me how to listen and ask questions instead of assuming you know everything. And she taught me how to give myself permission to not know. So,
That's it. Mark.
Single mom, she did everything she could to like me. And seeing her that she was with my kids shows me how much of a wonderful woman she was. And I didn't see it at that time, and now I'm seeing through that how good she was to them. How good she was like that.
And
oh, sorry, so yeah. So my mother kind of kept my dad when he needed to be on those levels. She always instilled in the boys to be self-sufficient. Depending on what you should know how to cook, you should know how to do everything that comes to it. And she started calling me, they called me pieces of black and stuff like that. Came up to New York. And that was her, man. She gave me all the traits. She showed me the traits that I see in it. And more important,
Christopher.
My mother did not have a representation to teach me how to be a man. She was a woman. But she did teach me how to be a provider. And she taught me how to be a great human being.
Yeah.
Sorry, I should have put a mic on.
Bro, you good, man.
If anyone knows this, like, sorry, if you know, you know what I'm trying to say. I am the eldest son of a Caribbean Dominican mother. And so what you have to understand is that part of the name of my mom is that in her eyes, as the eldest, as the one, right, who made it, I can do no wrong, which can be very bad. But I think what she did teach me was, I think my mom was the only version of a safe space emotionally that I had as a kid. That it's still really hard and still unpacking a lot of that because it kind of prevents me from being open and honest with other people. But I think my mom showed me the possibility of what that could look and feel like if I lead into that. So shout out to her.
Shut up. Find out.
Oh.
The gifts my mother gave me: creativity, the ability to love unconditionally, and just to understand that crying is healing.
So you try and put your whole memory of letting everything go and feeling what you were afraid of or what hurt
My mother taught me the tools to live successfully as an independent human being. And she also was a reflection of, she gave me a blueprint of a woman to love and to marry.
Dad, I'm gonna let y'all know this.
So you guys,
So this about my man 5-year-old double nine.
Strong guy. All right, all right. Now, we are scheduled to go to 7:25, and I think it's about what time, Miss Jerry Ann? 7:24. So, I do want to provide an opportunity. If there's something on your heart that you'd like to share with the group, I'm gonna make sure we create space for that. Go ahead. Chris.
We had space. We kind of have like emotion here with each other. Like he's like that.
That's fine, but you get stop it.
He's the guy very true that we should have. And I think that we should have that, and we should really start looking at that to help each other. And when we are having those situations, let's not make meetings out of it. Because I saw the time we start. They made me like, Will Smith,
Michael Jordan.
sure, right? Jesus, probably having a space to make so we have to move away from that as well. So,
I appreciate you sharing. Anybody else any last words? Jason.
I think we really be patient with ourselves as we evolve into become who we are. We give ourselves the space to let out emotion free and connect with those that love us. And we also need to love those who are willing to listen to us. That's what taught my kids. That's what I love about this. Be patient with yourselves. We're all in progress. We're all becoming the next evolution of ourselves. We have to be patient as we grow up to the next level of our lives. That's right.
I just want to say that I think that I want us to remember as we talked about there are people that are really multi-dimensional people, and sometimes that's what we're reflected like in society. We definitely have more sides to ourselves. I also just want to make sure that that we talk the talk, but listen more and make spaces for everything we just said here, because there's not one solution for this. If we can move a really speak around, there's many sides to it, many combinations, but there's so many possibilities for changing growth. That group is huge. Just consider that.
For sure. Well, now anything? There you go.
Just the young people out there, if I followed what society says masculinity or a man is, I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be Mr. Bowtie David. I wouldn't I wouldn't sit at my sewing machine every night and design clothes. So don't follow what society says. Do what you have in your heart. Do what you feel in your heart.
Can I get a round of applause for my people? All right. I know Zuri and I got the remarks you might want to say, but again, I personally just want to say thank you for the opportunity to be in community with us on the stage. I have never had this kind of conversation before, where we're just here talking and being vulnerable and sharing things that are kind of scary. And it's okay to be scared. So I just want to thank you so much for coming out tonight. Hopefully you learned something you can take away with you. I think we're all works in progress. Lord knows I am. But the one thing that we can say is we get up every day trying to be a little bit better. Yeah. And with that, I'll close. Jerry?
Yeah, I didn't plan on talking, but you guys have a little note paper. If you could just write a comment on what this meant to you. I forgot what question we asked. That, yeah, what did the conversation bring up for you? I know for me, this is just one of the most beautiful conversations we've had. Usually we have a conversation between the audience and the panelists. And so it's, we're all learning. But this one, we really had a chance to listen. And I think that was the most important thing. And I heard it on the stage as well. To listen to people who don't really get the chance to be themselves in our community. Because our society doesn't allow it. So the braveness of these men to share their story with us are more than appreciated and more than heartfelt. And I hope that you have a network of men that you can continue to have this conversation with beyond today. Because eight of you are on the stage, and then 8 of you talk to 8 other men, and those 8 other men talk to 8 other men. We have a chance to create change in our community. We can change the definition of what we think a man should be. We're looking at more the humanness, the opening of the heart, and that kind of conversation. So that's what I hope will come from today. And I am blessed to be part of this journey. Thank you.